She thought serving coffee would keep her invisible, until the day a Mafia boss noticed her smile and decided she belonged to him. Naomi Blake was drowning in medical bills and fear, raising her diabetic little brother alone in a city that didn't care if they survived. She never asked to be seen, especially not by Dante Moretti, the cold-eyed man in the corner booth who watched her like a predator watches prey. But when a charming stranger made her laugh, Dante's jealousy ignited a war that would put her brother in the crosshairs, her apartment in flames, and her life in the hands of a man who'd already lost everything he loved. What started as control became obsession. What began as protection became something far more dangerous. And when Naomi had to choose between safety and surrender, she discovered that sometimes the most broken men make the fiercest protectors, if they don't destroy you first. Subscribe and tell me where you're watching from, because this story goes places you won't see coming. The alarm screamed at 5 in the morning, and Naomi Blake slapped it silent before the noise could wake her little brother. She lay still for a moment in the grey darkness, staring at the water stain on the ceiling that looked like a bird with broken wings. Then she pushed herself up, bare feet hitting the cold linoleum floor. The apartment was quiet, except for the hum of the refrigerator and the distant sound of traffic already building on the street below. Naomi moved through the narrow hallway to the kitchen, flipping on the light. The fluorescent bulb flickered twice before staying on, casting everything in its harsh white glow. She pulled out the blood glucose monitor from the cabinet and walked to Micah's room. Her brother was 7 years old, small for his age, with dark curls pressed flat against his pillow. His breathing was soft and even. Naomi knelt beside his bed and gently touched his shoulder. "Micah, honey, time to check." He stirred, eyes opening slowly. He didn't complain. He never did anymore. That broke her heart more than anything. She pricked his finger with the lancet, squeezed a drop of blood onto the test strip and waited. The number appeared, 84. A little low, but manageable. She exhaled the breath she'd been holding. "Good job, baby," she whispered, kissing his forehead. "I'll go back to sleep for a bit." By 6, she had his breakfast ready. Scrambled eggs with cheese, whole wheat toast, and orange juice measured to 15 grams of carbohydrates. Micah shuffled into the kitchen in his superhero pajamas, rubbing his eyes. "Morning, Nay." "Morning, sweetheart." She set the plate in front of him and sat down with her coffee, watching him eat. His hands were so small holding the fork. Sometimes she forgot he was still just a kid. He'd had to grow up fast after their mother died 2 years ago. Diabetes didn't care that you were only 7. It didn't care that you'd already lost enough. "Mrs. Chen said we're doing art today," Micah said between bites. "We get to use the good markers." "That's great." Naomi smiled, even though she was already calculating how long it would take to walk him to school and still make it to her shift on time. The bus pass had expired last week, and she wouldn't have money for a new one until Friday. "You gonna draw me something?" "Yeah, maybe a dragon or a spaceship. I can't wait to see it." She got him dressed, packed his lunch, checked his backpack twice for his emergency glucose tablets. Then they walked the 8 blocks to his elementary school, her hand warm around his. The morning air was crisp, autumn just beginning to turn the leaves gold and orange. At the school gates, she crouched down and smoothed his shirt collar. "Remember what to do if you feel shaky. Tell the teacher. Go to the nurse. Eat the tablets." He recited it like a mantra because it was. She'd drilled it into him 100 times. "That's right, I love you, Micah." "Love you too, Nay." She watched him walk through the doors, his backpack almost as big as he was, before turning and jogging the 12 blocks to the cafe. The cafe sat on a busy corner in downtown Chicago, all exposed brick and reclaimed wood, the kind of place where business people stopped for their morning coffee before heading to gleaming office towers. Naomi had worked there for 2 years, ever since she'd dropped out of community college to take care of Micah full-time. She tied her apron and stepped onto the floor, just as the morning rush began. The cafe filled quickly. Lawyers in sharp suits, women in heels and blazers, construction workers grabbing something hot before their shift. Naomi moved through it all with practiced efficiency, taking orders, delivering drinks, smiling, even when her feet ached and her head pounded from too little sleep. She barely noticed him at first. He sat in the corner booth by the window, the same booth he always took when he came in. Black suit, black tie, dark hair combed back from a face that looked like it had been carved from stone. He never smiled, never looked up from his phone or the papers he spread across the table. He ordered the same thing every time: espresso, black, no sugar. Naomi brought it to him without a word. She'd learned early that he didn't want conversation. He wanted silence, space, and to be left alone. She set the cup down carefully. He didn't acknowledge her. She walked away. His name was Dante Moretti, though she'd only learned that from overhearing other customers whisper it. They never said it too loud. There was something about him that demanded distance, a coldness that seemed to lower the temperature wherever he went. Naomi had seen powerful men before, men who thought the world bent to their will, but Dante was different. He didn't demand attention. He simply existed in a way that made you aware of him, like standing too close to the edge of a cliff. She didn't think about him beyond that. She had enough to worry about. The morning stretched into afternoon. Naomi's shift should have ended at 2, but Rosa called in sick, so Naomi stayed. She needed the hours anyway. Every extra dollar went into the envelope she kept hidden in the flour canister at home. Money for Micah's medical bills, for insulin, for the rent that was already a week late. By 3 o'clock, her feet were screaming and her back ached. She was refilling the napkin dispensers when the door chimed and a man walked in. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with sandy brown hair and a smile that came easy. He wore jeans and a leather jacket, and he moved with a casual confidence that made people look twice. "Hey there," he said, stopping at the counter. His eyes were blue, bright and friendly. "You look like you've been on your feet all day." Naomi glanced up, surprised. Most customers didn't really see her. She was part of the furniture, just another face that brought them coffee and took their money. "It's been a long shift," she admitted, offering a tired smile. "I can tell. I'm Nick." He extended his hand across the counter. She hesitated, then shook it. His grip was warm, firm. "Naomi. Pretty name. You work here every day?" "Most days. Then I'll have to become a regular." He winked, and despite herself, Naomi felt her cheeks warm. It had been a long time since anyone had flirted with her, since anyone had looked at her like she was worth noticing. "What can I get you?" she asked, trying to keep her voice professional. "Just a coffee, black, and maybe a smile." "You've got a gorgeous laugh. I can tell even if I haven't heard it yet." She laughed then, a short surprised sound, and shook her head. "You're terrible. I try." He paid for his coffee, left a $5 tip that made her eyes widen, and took a seat by the window. Naomi went back to work, but she felt lighter somehow. It was nice to be seen, to be spoken to like she mattered. She didn't notice the man in the corner booth, didn't see the way his eyes had lifted from his phone the moment Nick walked in, didn't see the way his jaw tightened when Naomi laughed, didn't see his knuckles turn white around his espresso cup. When Nick left 20 minutes later, he stopped by the counter again. "Same time tomorrow?" he asked. "I'll be here," Naomi said. "Good." He smiled again, warm and easy, then walked out into the afternoon sun. Naomi turned back to the counter and nearly jumped. Dante Moretti stood right there, so close she could smell his cologne, something dark and expensive. She hadn't heard him approach. "Your service is slow today," he said. His voice was low, quiet, but it carried weight like a stone dropping into still water. I'm sorry, sir. We're short-staffed. I don't care about your excuses." His eyes were dark, unreadable. "I expect better." Her face burned. Around them, conversations had stopped. People were staring. Naomi's throat tightened, but she forced herself to nod. "Yes, sir. I apologize." He held her gaze for one more moment, then turned and walked out, leaving his half-finished espresso on the counter. The door swung shut behind him. Naomi stood frozen, humiliation washing over her in waves. She'd been publicly scolded like a child. Her hands trembled as she picked up his cup and carried it to the sink. "Don't take it personally," her manager Tony said quietly as he passed. "Guy's a regular, big tipper. Just let it go." But she couldn't let it go. For the rest of her shift, her face stayed hot, her chest tight with anger and embarrassment. Who did he think he was? She picked Micah up from school at 5, listening to him talk about his day, about the dragon he'd drawn with wings that had purple fire. She nodded and smiled, and tried to push Dante Moretti out of her mind. They walked home together through streets that grew quieter as they moved away from downtown. Their building was old, paint peeling, the front door lock broken for the 3rd time this month. Naomi made a mental note to call the landlord again, knowing he wouldn't answer. She unlocked their apartment door and stepped inside, then stopped. Everything was wrong. The couch cushions were thrown on the floor. The drawers hung open, contents spilled everywhere. The kitchen cabinets gaped, boxes and cans scattered across the counter. "Stay here," she told Micah, her voice sharp with fear. She moved through the apartment quickly, heart pounding. The bedroom was the same. Clothes pulled from the closet, mattress shoved aside. The bathroom mirror was cracked. But Micah's room was the worst. They'd torn through everything. His toys were scattered, his books thrown from the shelves, and on his nightstand, where she kept his insulin in a small cooler, it was empty. The insulin was gone. Naomi's knees went weak. She grabbed the doorframe to steady herself, black spots dancing in her vision. Insulin cost over $300. She didn't have $300. She'd just bought this month's supply. Without it, Micah could... She couldn't finish the thought. Nay? Micah appeared in the doorway, his eyes wide and frightened. What happened? She forced herself to breathe, forced herself to think. It's okay, baby. Someone made a mess, but it's okay. We're going to call the police. The police came an hour later. A board officer took her statement, looked around with barely concealed disinterest, and told her they'd file a report. When she mentioned the insulin, he just shrugged. Junkies probably thought it was something they could sell. Sorry, miss. Not much we can do. They left. Naomi sat on the couch with Micah curled against her side, and she stared at the chaos around them. She had maybe 2 days' worth of insulin samples from the doctor. After that, she didn't know. That night, after she'd put Micah to bed and cleaned up as much as she could, Naomi sat in the darkness of the living room and let herself cry. Quiet, exhausted sobs that shook her whole body. She was so tired. Tired of fighting, tired of struggling, tired of being afraid every single day that she wouldn't be enough, that she'd fail the one person who depended on her completely. She cried until she had nothing left. Then she wiped her face, checked on Micah one more time, and fell asleep on the couch, still wearing her cafe uniform. The next morning she woke to soft light filtering through the broken blinds. Her body ached. She sat up slowly, rubbing her eyes, trying to remember what day it was. Then she saw it. On the doormat, just inside the threshold, sat a small white paper bag. Naomi froze. She hadn't heard anyone knock, hadn't heard footsteps in the hallway. Slowly she got up and approached the door, peering through the peephole. The hallway was empty. She opened the door carefully, looked both ways, then picked up the bag. Inside was a vial of insulin, the exact brand Micah used, and beneath it 3 more vials. Her hands started shaking. She checked the bag again, looking for a note, a receipt, anything. There was nothing. Someone had left her over $1,000 worth of medication on her doorstep in the middle of the night. Someone who knew exactly what she needed. Naomi backed into the apartment and closed the door, locking it with trembling fingers. She looked at the insulin in her hands, her mind racing. Who had done this? And more importantly, why? She went to work that day in a daze. Micah's blood sugar was stable. The insulin was real. She'd checked it 3 times, but the question gnawed at her like a splinter under the skin. The cafe was busy as always. Naomi moved through her shift on autopilot, pouring coffee, taking orders, her mind somewhere else entirely. At 11, Dante Moretti walked in. He took his usual booth, ordered his usual espresso, didn't look at her. But something made Naomi approach his table. She set down his cup and didn't walk away. "Was it you?" she asked quietly. He glanced up. His face showed nothing. "Excuse me. The insulin. Was it you?" For a long moment he just looked at her. His eyes were dark brown, almost black, and they gave away nothing. Then he picked up his espresso and took a sip. "I don't know what you're talking about. Someone left insulin at my door last night, after my apartment was robbed. Insulin that costs over $300 a vial. Perhaps you have a generous neighbor." "I don't." He set down his cup, leaned back. "Then perhaps you have a secret admirer." "I don't want charity," she said, her voice harder than she intended. "And I don't need anyone watching me." Something flickered in his expression then, so brief she almost missed it. "Everyone needs someone watching them, Miss Blake. The world is more dangerous than you realize." Her blood ran cold. "How do you know my name?" He didn't answer, just picked up his phone and went back to whatever he'd been reading before she interrupted. Naomi stood there for another moment, anger and fear warring in her chest. Then she turned and walked away, her pulse pounding in her ears. For the rest of her shift, she felt his eyes on her. Every time she glanced toward his booth, he was looking at his phone or his papers. But she knew. Somehow she knew. He was watching. That afternoon, Nick came back. He smiled when he saw her. That same easy warmth that made something inside her chest unknot slightly. "Hey, Naomi. Rough day?" "You could say that." "Well, maybe this'll help." He slid a business card across the counter. "My number, in case you ever want to grab coffee somewhere that isn't your workplace, or dinner, or just talk." She looked at the card. Nick Callahan, it read, with a phone number below. No title, no company. "I don't really have time for..." No pressure, he said quickly, raising his hands. Just thought I'd offer. You seem like you could use a friend. A friend. When was the last time she'd had one of those? Thank you, she said softly, tucking the card into her apron pocket. Nick's smile widened. Anytime. I mean that. He bought his coffee and sat down to drink it. Naomi went back to work, and for a few minutes she let herself feel something other than afraid. Then the door opened, and Dante Moretti walked back in. His eyes went immediately to Nick. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. Nick looked up, met Dante's gaze and smiled. Not friendly. Something else. Something sharp. Dante walked past him without a word and left through the back entrance, but Naomi saw his face as he passed, saw the muscle jump in his jaw, saw the way his hands curled into fists at his sides, and she realized with sudden, terrible clarity that whatever was happening, it had nothing to do with charity or kindness. She'd been pulled into something, and she had no idea how to get out. That night, after Micah was asleep, Naomi sat at the small kitchen table and stared at Nick's business card. She thought about throwing it away, thought about pretending none of this was happening, but she was tired of being invisible, tired of struggling alone. She picked up her phone and started to type a message. Then she stopped. Through the window she could see a black SUV parked across the street. It hadn't been there earlier. The windows were tinted dark, the engine running. Naomi's hand tightened around her phone. She stood and moved closer to the window, trying to see who was inside. The headlights flicked on, bright and blinding for just a second. Then the SUV pulled away and disappeared into the night. Naomi closed the blinds with shaking hands and checked the locks on the door 3 times before she could convince herself to go to bed. In the darkness, she lay awake and wondered who was watching her, and why she wasn't sure if she should be terrified or grateful. The next morning came too soon. Naomi woke with her mind already racing, replaying everything from yesterday: the insulin, Dante's strange words, Nick's card, the black SUV. She wanted to believe she was imagining things, but she knew better. Her instincts had kept her and Micah alive this long. They were screaming at her now. Something was very wrong. She got Micah ready for school, checking his blood sugar twice even though it was fine. When they stepped outside, she scanned the street automatically. No black SUV, just the usual morning traffic, people heading to work, the city waking up. "You okay, Nay?" Micah asked, his hand in hers. She looked down at his worried little face and forced a smile. "I'm fine, baby. Just tired." At school, she watched him walk through the gates, then stood there longer than usual, making sure he made it inside. A woman in a minivan gave her a strange look. Naomi ignored her and started the walk to work. She was 3 blocks from the cafe when her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her swipe to accept. "Hello?" Silence. Then, "You didn't throw away the card." Her stomach dropped. "Who is this?" "You know who this is." The voice was low, rough, unfamiliar. "The question is, do you know what you're doing?" I haven't done anything." "You smiled at the wrong man, Naomi." The call ended. She stood frozen on the sidewalk, people flowing around her like water around a stone. Her hands were shaking so badly she almost dropped the phone. Someone knew her name, knew about Nick, was watching her closely enough to know she still had his card. She thought about calling the police. But what would she say? "Someone left me insulin and now they're calling me." She had no proof of anything, no evidence. She took a deep breath and kept walking. What else could she do? At the cafe, she tied her apron with numb fingers and tried to focus on work. Tony gave her a concerned look but didn't say anything. Naomi was grateful. She didn't trust her voice right now. The morning rush came and went. Dante didn't show up. She didn't know if that was a relief or if it made things worse. At noon, Nick walked in. He waved when he saw her, that easy smile on his face. "Hey, didn't expect to see you today." "I work here every day," she said, trying to sound normal. "Right, of course." He ordered coffee and a sandwich. When she brought it to his table, he gestured to the empty chair across from him. "Got a minute?" She glanced at Tony. He nodded. Naomi sat, her heart hammering. Nick leaned forward, his voice dropping. "I heard about what happened to your apartment. That's awful." She went very still. "How did you hear about that?" "Small neighborhood, you know how it is. People talk." He stirred his coffee. "You find out who did it?" "No." "That's rough. You and your brother doing okay?" "We're fine." He studied her face. "You don't look fine. You look scared." She was. Terrified. But she wasn't about to tell him that. "I'm just tired." "Well, if you need anything, and I mean anything, you call me." "Okay?" His hand moved across the table like he might touch hers, but he stopped just short. "I know we just met, but I don't like seeing people get pushed around." There was something in his voice, something protective and sincere. Despite everything, Naomi felt herself wanting to believe him. "Thank you," she said quietly. He smiled. "Anytime." She went back to work, but his words stayed with her. For the first time in days, she felt like maybe she wasn't completely alone. Then at 2 o'clock, Dante walked in. His eyes found her immediately, found Nick sitting by the window, found the way Nick looked at her, and something in Dante's expression turned to ice. He didn't sit down. He walked straight to the counter, and Naomi's pulse jumped when his eyes locked on hers. "I need to speak with you," he said quietly. "Outside. I'm working now." It wasn't a request. Tony appeared at her shoulder. "Sir, she's on the clock." Dante pulled out his wallet and laid $500 bills on the counter without looking away from Naomi's face. "Now she's on break." Tony's eyes widened. He looked at Naomi, torn. Naomi untied her apron with shaking hands. "It's fine, Tony." She followed Dante out the back door into the alley behind the cafe. The door closed behind them, muffling the noise of the street. They were alone. Dante turned to face her, and up close she could see the tension in his jaw, the barely controlled anger in his eyes. "Stay away from him," he said. "What?" "Nick Callahan. Stay away from him. You can't tell me who—" "I'm not asking." His voice was hard, final. "I'm warning you. That man is dangerous." She let out a harsh laugh. "He's dangerous? He's the only person who's been nice to me. You're the one following me, leaving things at my door, telling me I'm being watched. Because you are being watched. By me. To keep you safe. I don't need you to keep me safe." "Yes," he said quietly. "You do, and you're too stubborn to see it." She stepped closer, anger burning away her fear. "You don't know anything about me. I know more than you think." He didn't back up, didn't flinch. "I know you work 60 hours a week. I know your brother is 7 and diabetic. I know you're 3 weeks behind on rent. I know your apartment was ransacked 2 nights ago and your insulin was stolen. I know you cried yourself to sleep on a broken couch and woke up to find exactly what you needed on your doorstep." The words hit her like physical blows. She stared at him, her heart racing. "How do you—" "Because I'm the one who left it." Silence filled the alley. Naomi's mouth opened, but no sound came out. "Why?" she finally whispered. His jaw tightened. For a long moment, he didn't answer. Then, "Because I don't like people touching what I watch." "I'm not a thing you can watch." "No, you're not." Something shifted in his expression. "You're someone who needs protection whether she wants it or not, and I'm someone who knows what happens when protection comes too late." There was pain there, real deep pain beneath the coldness. Naomi saw it clearly for the first time. "What happened to you?" she asked softly. He looked away. "That's not your concern." "Then neither am I." She turned to go back inside, but his hand caught her arm. Not hard, just enough to stop her. "Naomi." Her name in his voice sounded different, less like a command and more like a plea. "Please, just stay away from him." She looked at his hand on her arm, then up at his face. His eyes weren't cold anymore. They were desperate. "I'll think about it," she said. He released her immediately and stepped back. "That's all I'm asking." She went inside without another word, her skin still tingling where he'd touched her. When she looked back through the window, he was gone. But that night, when she walked Micah home from school, she saw the black SUV again. This time she didn't feel afraid. She felt something else entirely, something she couldn't quite name. The black SUV followed her for 3 more days. Naomi stopped pretending she didn't see it. Every morning when she walked Micah to school, it was there, parked half a block back, windows dark, engine idling. Every evening when she picked him up, it appeared again, keeping its distance but never quite disappearing. She should have been terrified, should have called someone, done something. But the strange thing was, she slept better knowing it was there. Her apartment hadn't been touched again. No more strange phone calls, no more threats. Whatever Dante Moretti was, he'd kept his word. He was watching, and somehow that made her feel safer than she had in years. Micah noticed on the 3rd day. "That car's been following us," he said, as they walked home from school, his hand warm in hers. Naomi's stomach tightened. "What makes you say that?" "I saw it yesterday and the day before." He looked up at her with those 2 old eyes. "Is someone watching us?" She'd always been honest with Micah. After their mother died, she'd promised never to lie to him, even when the truth was hard. But this, how could she explain this? "Someone's making sure we're safe," she said carefully. "Who?" "A man from the cafe." Micah thought about that. Is he nice? Naomi almost laughed. Nice wasn't the word she'd use for Dante Moretti. Intense, controlling, haunted, but nice. I think he's trying to be, she said finally. That seemed to satisfy him. They walked the rest of the way home in silence, the SUV following like a shadow. At work the next day, Nick came in again. He'd become a regular now, showing up every afternoon around 2, always friendly, always leaving generous tips, always finding a reason to talk to Naomi. She'd been careful to keep their conversations short, professional, but today he caught her during a slow period. "You've been avoiding me," he said, leaning against the counter with that easy smile. "I've been working." "Right, working." He didn't believe her. "Look, I know I came on a little strong before. I just wanted to say no pressure. If you want to just be friends, that's cool. But I meant what I said. If you need anything, I'm here." There was something genuine in his voice, something that made Naomi want to trust him despite everything Dante had said. "Thank you," she said softly. "That means a lot." "So we're good?" She nodded. "We're good." His smile widened. He bought his coffee and sat down in his usual spot by the window. Naomi went back to work, but she felt the weight lift slightly from her shoulders. Maybe she'd been wrong about him. Maybe Dante was just paranoid. Then the door opened, and Dante walked in. His eyes went immediately to Nick, then to Naomi. Something dark crossed his face, something possessive and dangerous that made her breath catch. He walked straight to Nick's table. The cafe went quiet. Everyone felt it, the sudden shift in the air like the pressure dropped before a storm. Tony stopped wiping down the espresso machine. The couple at table 3 looked up from their phones. Dante stood over Nick's table, his hands in his pockets, his voice low and calm. "I thought I told you to stay away from here." Nick looked up slowly. He wasn't smiling anymore. "This is a public cafe, Moretti. I can drink coffee wherever I want." "Not here. Not anymore. You don't own this place." "I own enough." Dante's voice never rose, but it cut like broken glass. "Leave, now." Nick stood up. He was tall, almost as tall as Dante, and broader through the shoulders. The two men faced each other across the small table, and Naomi's heart hammered in her chest. "What's your problem?" Nick asked. "You got some claim on the waitress?" "My problem is you. My claim is my business. So that's a yes." Nick laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Does she know that? Does she know what you really are?" Dante's hands came out of his pockets. "Final warning. Walk out now, or I make you leave. I'd like to see you try." The tension snapped. Dante moved faster than Naomi would have thought possible. His hand shot out, grabbed Nick's jacket and slammed him back against the wall. Dishes rattled. A woman screamed, "Stop!" Naomi ran around the counter. "Stop it right now." They both froze. Dante's hand was fisted in Nick's jacket, Nick's hand halfway to his pocket. To a weapon, Naomi realized with horror. She stepped between them, her hands up. "Both of you need to leave. Right now." Dante's eyes met hers. For a moment she thought he'd refuse. Then slowly he released Nick and stepped back. "As you wish." His voice was cold again, all emotion locked away. He turned and walked out without another word. Nick straightened his jacket, breathing hard. His eyes were bright with anger. "I'm okay. I'm fine, but you need to go too." "Naomi, please." Her voice broke. "Just go." He studied her face, then nodded slowly. "Okay, but this isn't over. That guy's dangerous, and you need to stay away from him." He left through the front door. Naomi stood in the middle of the cafe, everyone staring at her, and felt like she was falling apart. Tony appeared at her side. "Take the rest of the day off." "Tony!" "Go home, Naomi. We'll be fine." She untied her apron with shaking hands and walked out into the afternoon sun. The street was busy with traffic, people rushing past on their way to somewhere important. She felt lost in the current, drowning. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. "What?" she snapped, answering it. "Get in the car." Dante's voice low and urgent. She looked up. The black SUV was parked at the curb 20 feet away. The back door opened. "I'm not getting in your car. Naomi, please, we need to talk. Somewhere private. So you can threaten me too. No thanks. I'm not going to threaten you." A pause. "I'm trying to protect you. And right now you're standing exposed on a public street arguing with me while Nick Callahan is probably watching from somewhere nearby, so please get in the car." She wanted to refuse, wanted to tell him to leave her alone, that she didn't need his protection or his interference, but her hands were still shaking from what had almost happened in the cafe. And despite everything, some part of her trusted him more than she trusted Nick. She crossed the street and got in the car. The inside was all black leather and tinted windows. Dante sat across from her, his suit jacket perfectly straight, his face expressionless. A man she didn't recognize sat in the driver's seat. Broad shoulders, graying hair, a scar across his left cheek. "This is Matteo," Dante said. "He works for me." Matteo nodded at her in the rearview mirror. "Ma'am?" "Drive," Dante told him. The car pulled into traffic. Naomi pressed herself against the door, watching Dante warily. "Where are we going?" "Nowhere. We're just driving." He leaned back, his eyes never leaving her face. "You need to listen to me very carefully. Nick Callahan is not who you think he is. And who do you think he is? I know who he is. He works for the Callahan family, Irish mob out of Southside. They've been trying to expand into our territory for 6 months. Naomi's blood ran cold. "Our territory?" "My family's territory." He said it simply, like he was telling her the weather. "I run operations in this part of the city. Callahan wants what I have, and he's using you to get to me." She couldn't breathe. "That's insane." "Is it? Think about it. He shows up at your cafe the same week I've been coming there. He flirts with you in front of me, gives you his number, asks questions about your life. He's trying to get information." "Information about what?" "About me, my routine, my vulnerabilities." Dante's jaw tightened. "He doesn't care about you, Naomi. You're a tool, and when he's done using you, he'll discard you, or worse." She shook her head, trying to process, trying to make sense of any of this. "This is crazy. This whole thing is crazy. I'm just a waitress. I'm nobody." "You're not nobody." His voice cut through her panic. "Not to me." She looked up. His eyes were intense, burning with something she couldn't name. "Why?" she whispered. "Why do you care?" He looked away, muscle jumping in his jaw. When he spoke again, his voice was rough. "Because I've seen what happens when dangerous men target innocent people. I've lost—" He stopped, took a breath. "I won't let it happen again." The car fell silent, except for the hum of the engine and the sound of traffic outside. Naomi stared at her hands, her mind racing. "I can't do this," she said finally. "I can't be part of whatever this is. I have Micah to think about. He needs me. I can't—" "Then let me help you." "Help me how? By following me? By getting into fights in my workplace? By pulling me into some war between crime families?" "By keeping you safe." He leaned forward. "Naomi, your apartment was ransacked because Nick's people were looking for information. They wanted to scare you, make you vulnerable. The insulin was stolen to make you desperate. And then he showed up, playing hero, offering help." Her stomach turned. "You don't know that." "I do, and I can prove it." He pulled out his phone and showed her a photo. It was grainy, taken from a distance, but clear enough. Nick standing with 2 other men outside a warehouse. One of them had a crowbar, the same crowbar she'd seen in her apartment, leaning against the wall before the police came. She felt sick. "Oh, God." "I'm sorry," Dante said quietly. "I know you wanted to believe he was genuine, but he's not. He's a predator, and you and Micah are his prey." Tears burned her eyes. She pressed her palms against them, breathing hard. Everything was falling apart. Everything. "What do I do?" she asked, her voice breaking. "You let me protect you, both of you." "How?" He hesitated. "Move in with me." Her head snapped up. "What?" "Temporarily, just until this is resolved. I have a penthouse downtown. Security, guards, everything you need. You and Micah will be safe there." "That's insane." "Is it?" "More insane than staying in an apartment with a broken lock where Nick knows your address. More insane than walking Micah to school every day where anyone could grab him." She flinched. The image of Micah being hurt, being taken, made her want to vomit. "I'll give you your own space," Dante continued. "Your own rooms. You won't have to see me if you don't want to. But please, let me keep you safe." "Why are you doing this?" she asked again. "The truth this time." He looked at her for a long moment, then, "Because 5 years ago, my wife was pregnant. 7 months. We were going to name him Marco." His voice was flat, emotionless, but his hands were fisted on his knees. "She went to the doctor alone because I had a meeting I thought I couldn't miss. On the way home, a rival family ran her off the road. She died in the ambulance. So did my son." Naomi's breath caught. "I wasn't there," he continued. "I chose business over her safety, and she paid the price. I won't make that mistake again, not with anyone." Tears spilled down Naomi's cheeks. "I'm so sorry. I don't want your pity. I want your trust." He met her eyes. "Please, Naomi, let me help you." She thought about Micah, thought about coming home to a ransacked apartment again, thought about Nick's friendly smile hiding something dark and dangerous, thought about Dante watching her sleep in that hospital chair, leaving insulin on her doorstep, fighting to keep her safe even when she pushed him away. "Okay," she whispered. Relief flooded his face. "Thank you, but I have conditions." "Name them." "Micah comes first. Always. If I think for 1 second he's in danger because of this, I leave." "Agreed. And I want the truth. No more secrets. If something's happening, you tell me." He nodded slowly. "Agreed. And I'm not a prisoner. I still go to work, I still live my life. With security," he said. "But yes, agreed." She let out a shaky breath. "When?" "Tonight." Matteo drove them to her apartment. Dante waited in the car while Naomi went upstairs to pack. Her hands shook as she pulled clothes from drawers, stuffed Micah's toys into a backpack, gathered his insulin and glucose monitor and emergency supplies. She looked around the small apartment, the place where she'd raised Micah for 2 years, where they'd cried and laughed and survived. It wasn't much, but it was theirs. And now she was leaving it, because staying meant danger. She grabbed the last bag and locked the door behind her. Dante was standing by the car when she came down. He took the bags from her without a word and loaded them into the trunk. "We need to pick up Micah," she said. "Matteo will get him. Shall have one of my people pose as you. He won't know the difference. Safer that way." She started to argue, then stopped. He was right. If Nick was watching the school, seeing her, there would tip him off. "Okay." They drove in silence. Naomi watched the city pass by outside the tinted windows and wondered what she'd just agreed to. 20 minutes later, Matteo pulled up to a tall building in downtown Chicago. Glass and steel, sleek and modern, the kind of place Naomi had only ever seen from the outside. "This is it?" she asked. "Top floor," Dante said. They took a private elevator that required a key card. The ride up was smooth, silent. When the doors opened, Naomi stepped into a hallway that looked like something from a magazine. Marble floors, modern art on the walls, recessed lighting that cast everything in a warm glow. Dante unlocked a door and gestured for her to enter. The penthouse was huge. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city. The furniture was all clean lines and expensive fabric. The kitchen had marble countertops and appliances that looked like they'd never been used. "Your rooms are this way," Dante said, leading her down a hallway. He opened a door to reveal a spacious bedroom with an attached bathroom. Everything was clean, neutral, expensive. "Micah's room is across the hall. I've had it stocked with toys and books. If he needs anything else, let me know." "This is too much." "It's necessary." He set her bags down. "I'll be in my office if you need anything. Matteo will bring Micah within the hour." He turned to leave, but Naomi caught his arm. "Thank you," she said quietly. He looked at her hand on his arm, then at her face. Something softened in his expression. "You're welcome." When he left, Naomi sat on the edge of the bed and finally let herself fall apart. She cried for the life she'd lost, for the fear she couldn't shake, for the impossible situation she'd been pulled into. But mostly she cried because for the first time in 2 years, she didn't have to be strong. Someone else was carrying the weight now, and she didn't know if that made her weak or just human. Micah arrived an hour later, his eyes huge as he looked around the penthouse. "Whoa," he breathed. "This place is like a palace." Naomi knelt in front of him. "Hey, baby, we're going to stay here for a little while, okay? With the man from the cafe. The one who's keeping us safe. Yeah, that one." "Cool." He looked past her. "Where's my room?" She showed him, and he immediately started exploring, pulling out toys and examining the books on the shelf. Naomi watched him, her heart aching. He adapted so quickly, too quickly. He'd had to learn how to survive too young, just like her. That night, she made dinner in the huge kitchen. Simple pasta with butter, nothing fancy. Dante appeared as she was setting the table, his suit jacket gone, sleeves rolled up. "You didn't have to cook," he said. "It helps me think." He nodded. "May I join you?" She hesitated, then nodded. "It's your home." They ate in near silence, Micah chattering about his day, about the cool toys in his room, about how high up they were. Dante listened, answering the occasional question, but his eyes kept drifting to Naomi. She could feel the weight of everything unsaid between them. After dinner, she got Micah ready for bed, checking his blood sugar and tucking him in. He fell asleep almost immediately, exhausted from the excitement. Naomi found Dante in the living room, standing by the windows, looking out at the city lights. "He's asleep," she said. "Good." He didn't turn around. "You should rest too. It's been a long day." She should have gone to bed, should have left him alone, but something made her stay. "Tell me about her," she said quietly. "Your wife." He went very still. For a long moment she thought he wouldn't answer, Then, her name was Elena. She was a doctor, pediatrician. She loved children. His voice was soft, distant. She used to say I was too serious, that I needed to smile more. She made me laugh when I thought I'd forgotten how. She sounds wonderful. She was. He finally turned to face her, and I failed her. I chose power over protection, and she died because of it. It wasn't your fault. It was. His voice turned hard. I knew the risks. I knew what my enemies were capable of, and I left her alone anyway. That's on me. It will always be on me. Naomi crossed the room slowly until she stood in front of him. Is that why you're doing this? Because you're trying to save her by saving me? He looked down at her, his eyes dark and haunted. Maybe. Does that make it wrong? I don't know. She touched his arm, feeling the tension in his muscles. But you don't have to carry that guilt alone. Yes, I do. It's mine to carry. Then let me carry some of it with you. For a moment, something cracked in his expression, something vulnerable and raw. Then he pulled away, putting distance between them. Get some rest, Naomi. Tomorrow we figure out how to end this. She wanted to push, wanted to break through that wall he kept around himself, but she was exhausted, emotionally wrung out. Good night, Dante. Good night. She went to her room and closed the door. Through the wall she could hear Micah's soft breathing from across the hall, and in the living room she knew Dante stood by the window, watching over them like a dark, guardian angel. She fell asleep, wondering if she'd just made the biggest mistake of her life, or if somehow, impossibly, she'd found exactly where she needed to be. Naomi woke to sunlight, streaming through unfamiliar windows, and the smell of coffee brewing. For a moment she forgot where she was. Then it all came rushing back. Dante, the penthouse, the danger they were running from. She checked her phone. 6:30. She'd slept later than usual, her body finally giving in to exhaustion. She threw on a sweater over her pajamas and padded down the hall to check on Micah. He was still asleep, curled up with a stuffed dinosaur he'd found in his room. His glucose monitor lay on the nightstand. She checked it quietly. 1:12. Perfect. In the kitchen she found coffee already made, and a note in sharp, precise handwriting. Had to handle business. Matteo is outside if you need anything. Help yourself to whatever you want. D. The apartment felt enormous without him in it. Naomi poured herself coffee and stood by those massive windows, looking out at Chicago spread below like a map. From up here, the city looked beautiful, clean, safe. She knew better now. Her phone buzzed. A text from Tony. You okay? You didn't show up yesterday and I'm worried. Guilt twisted in her stomach. She'd forgotten to call him. She typed back, I'm fine, family emergency. I need a few days off. I'm so sorry. His response came quickly. Take all the time you need. Your job will be here. She closed her eyes, grateful. At least that was one thing she didn't have to worry about. Micah wandered in around 8, rubbing his eyes. Morning, Nay? Morning, baby? How'd you sleep? Good. That bed is really soft. He climbed onto a stool at the kitchen island. Is Mr. Moretti here? He had to go to work. What does he do? Naomi hesitated. What could she say? Your protector runs a criminal organization. He manages businesses. Oh, Micah seemed satisfied with that. Can we go outside today? Maybe later. Let's just relax here for now, okay? They spent the morning watching movies on the enormous TV, Micah curled against her side. It was the most peaceful she'd felt in days, even with everything hanging over them. Around noon, the door opened. Naomi tensed, but it was just Dante. He looked tired, shadows under his eyes, his tie loosened. Hey, she said. Hey. He set down his briefcase. Everything okay here? Fine, we've just been hanging out. He nodded, then noticed Micah watching him curiously. Hello, Micah. Hi. Micah didn't seem afraid, just interested. Do you have any games? Games? Like video games? Or board games? Something almost like a smile touched Dante's face. I might have some old ones in storage, I'll look. Cool, thanks. Dante disappeared down the hall. Naomi followed him, finding him in what looked like a home office. All dark wood and leather. Very masculine, very him. You don't have to entertain him, she said. I don't mind. He was sorting through a closet. I had a nephew before. He stopped. Before. He liked games. Naomi's chest tightened. What happened? He moved away. My sister took him after. He didn't finish, but she understood. After his wife died, his family had fractured. Is that why you live alone in this huge place? He pulled out a box of chess pieces. I live alone because it's safer that way for everyone. That sounds lonely. It is. He said it simply. matter of fact. But loneliness doesn't kill you. Caring about people does. That's not true, isn't it? He turned to face her. Every person I've cared about has either died or left. My wife, my son, my sister, my nephew, even my parents eventually. Everyone leaves, Naomi. The only variable is how much it destroys you when they do. She wanted to argue, but the pain in his eyes stopped her. I'm sorry, she said quietly. Don't be, just understand why I keep my distance. It's not personal. It feels personal. I know. He handed her the chess set. But it's necessary. He left the office. Naomi stood there holding the dusty box, her heart aching for this man who'd built walls so high he couldn't see over them anymore. That afternoon, she convinced Dante to let her and Micah go outside, just to the building's private rooftop garden. Matteo came with them, standing a respectful distance away while Micah explored the plants, and Naomi sat on a bench in the sun. This is nice, Micah said, examining a rosebush. I like it here. It's temporary, baby. Remember that. But what if it wasn't? He looked at her with those serious eyes. Would that be so bad? Before she could answer, her phone rang. Unknown number. Her stomach dropped. Hello? Naomi. Nick's voice, smooth and friendly. I've been worried about you. You disappeared. She stood up quickly, her pulse racing. Matteo noticed immediately, moving closer. I'm fine, she said carefully. Are you? Because I heard you moved. That's sudden. How did he know that? I needed a change. With Dante Moretti? His voice hardened. Naomi, please tell me you're not staying with him. That's none of your business. It is my business when you're putting yourself in danger. That man is a killer. Do you understand that? He's not some white knight. He's a monster. And what are you? The words came out before she could stop them. You had my apartment ransacked. You stole my brother's insulin. Silence. Then, he told you that. He showed me proof. And you believed him. Naomi, he's manipulating you. He's dangerous. So are you. Her voice shook. Stay away from me, Nick. Stay away from my brother. I mean it. She hung up, her hands trembling. Matteo was at her side instantly. You okay? No. She looked at Micah, who was watching her with worried eyes. We need to go back inside. Matteo radioed ahead as they took the elevator down. By the time they reached the penthouse, Dante was there, his face dark with concern. What happened? Nick called. He knows we're here. Naomi's voice cracked. How does he know? He's guessing. Testing you. Dante's jaw tightened. What did you tell him? To stay away. She sank onto the couch, suddenly exhausted. This is never going to end, is it? He's never going to leave us alone. Dante crouched in front of her. Yes, he will. I promise you, this ends. Soon. How? Let me worry about that. He glanced at Micah, who was watching them both nervously. Right now, I need you to trust me. Can you do that? She looked into his eyes, those dark, haunted eyes that had seen too much. I don't know. Then trust this. I will protect you and Micah with my life. That's not empty words. That's a promise. Something in his voice made her believe him, made her want to believe him anyway. Okay, she whispered. He stood. Good. Now I have to go handle something. Matteo stays with you. Don't open the door for anyone. Understood? Where are you going? To make sure Nick knows exactly what happens when he threatens what's mine. The possessiveness in his voice should have scared her. Instead, it made her feel something else entirely, something warm and confusing that she wasn't ready to examine. Be careful, she said. His expression softened. Always. He was gone for hours. Naomi tried to distract herself by playing games with Micah, making dinner, anything to keep her mind off where Dante was and what he was doing. Around 8, Micah started getting tired. She checked his blood sugar, a little high from the stress of the day, and gave him his insulin. He went to bed without protest, exhausted. Naomi sat in the living room, waiting. Matteo was outside the door. She was safe. They were both safe. So why did she feel so afraid? At 9:30, the door opened. Dante walked in and Naomi's heart stopped. His knuckles were bruised and bleeding. There was a cut above his eyebrow. His shirt was untucked, stained with something dark. Oh my God! She rushed to him. What happened? I'm fine. You're bleeding. It's not my blood. He said it flatly, and she realized with horror that he meant it. Dante, Nick won't be bothering you anymore. Not directly, anyway. I made that very clear. What did you do? What needed to be done? He pulled away from her, heading toward what she assumed was his bedroom. Get some rest, Naomi. Tomorrow's going to be a long day. Wait. She followed him. You can't just... You're hurt. Let me help. I said I'm fine. And I said, let me help. She pushed past him into his bedroom, as masculine and sparse as the rest of the place, and pointed to the bed. "Sit." For a moment she thought he'd refuse. Then he sat, and she saw how tired he really was, how the weight of everything was crushing him. She went to his bathroom, found a first aid kit, and came back with supplies. He watched her silently as she cleaned the cut above his eyebrow, her hands gentle. "You didn't have to do this," he said quietly. "Yes, I did." She dabbed antiseptic on his knuckles. "You're protecting us. The least I can do is patch you up." "That's not how this works." "Then how does it work?" She met his eyes. "You save us, we say thank you, and you go back to being alone. That's not fair, Dante." "Fair has nothing to do with it." "Then what does?" He was quiet for a long moment, then, "My sister. After Elena died, she tried to help me, tried to break through. I pushed her away, told her I was fine, that I didn't need anyone. She kept trying anyway, and one day someone followed her home. They wanted to get to me through her. She and Lucia barely escaped." Naomi's hands stilled. "That's why Lucia doesn't talk. She was in the car when they ran them off the road. My sister died 3 days later in the hospital. Lucia hasn't spoken since." His voice was raw. "So you see, Naomi, everyone I let close ends up hurt. That's how it works." She set down the antiseptic and took his face in her hands. "I'm not your sister, and I'm not your wife. I know the risks. I'm choosing to stay anyway." "Why?" It came out broken. "Why would you choose this?" "Because someone needs to, because you can't carry all this alone, and because—" She hesitated. "Because I think maybe we're saving each other." His hands came up to cover hers. His eyes were wet, tears he was fighting not to shed. "I don't know how to let people in anymore." "Then I'll teach you." She smiled softly. "One day at a time." He pulled her hands down but didn't let go. They sat like that in the quiet of his bedroom, holding onto each other like lifelines. "Thank you," he whispered. "For what?" "For not running. Everyone else would have." "I'm not everyone else." "No." He looked at her with something that might have been wonder. "You're not." She should have left then, should have gone back to her room and kept the distance that was safe, but instead she stayed, sitting beside him on the bed, while he told her about Elena, about how they met, how she made him laugh, how he'd loved her fierce and completely until the day she died. And when he finally fell asleep, exhausted and vulnerable, Naomi covered him with a blanket and slipped out quietly. In her own bed, she lay awake thinking about this complicated, broken man who was trying so hard to save them while destroying himself in the process. And she realized something terrifying. She was starting to care about him, not because he was protecting her, not out of gratitude or obligation, but because beneath all the walls and pain, she'd seen who he really was, and that person was worth saving too. The next morning, everything changed. Naomi woke to raised voices. She threw on her robe and ran to the living room to find Dante facing off with a man she didn't recognize. Tall, silver-haired, expensive suit. "You can't keep them here indefinitely," the man was saying. "It's making you weak, Dante. People are talking. Let them talk. The families are questioning your judgment. Harboring a civilian and her brother, they're under my protection. That's not negotiable." The man noticed Naomi. His eyes swept over her, assessing. "So this is her. The waitress causing all the trouble." "Don't," Dante warned. "I'm just saying what everyone's thinking. You're compromising everything over a woman you barely know. Get out." "Dante, I said get out." His voice cracked like thunder. "And tell the families this. Naomi and Micah Blake are off limits. Anyone who touches them answers to me. Personally." The man's face paled. He nodded once and left quickly. Dante stood there, breathing hard, his hands clenched into fists. Naomi approached carefully. "Who was that?" "My second, Matteo's brother." He didn't look at her. "He's right, you know. I'm making myself vulnerable by keeping you here. Then we'll leave." "No." He turned, his eyes fierce. "You stay. I don't care what they think. I don't care what it costs. You stay." "Why?" she asked again. "Why are we worth this?" "Because," he stepped closer, "because when I look at you, I remember what it feels like to care about someone, to want to protect them. And I thought I'd lost that forever." Her breath caught. "Dante, I know it's selfish. I know I should let you go, keep you safe by staying away, but I can't. Not yet. Please don't ask me to." She touched his face, feeling the stubble on his jaw, the tension in his muscles. "I'm not asking you to. I'm asking you to let me help. You can't help with this. Then let me help with other things." She glanced toward the hallway. "Micah's still asleep. Come on." She led him to the kitchen, and made him sit while she cooked breakfast. Nothing fancy, just eggs and toast. But she saw the way he watched her, like he'd forgotten what it was like to be cared for. "When's the last time someone made you breakfast?" she asked. 5 years. Elena used to make pancakes every Sunday. "Did you like them?" A ghost of a smile. "They were terrible. She always burned them, but I ate every bite." "That's love," Naomi said softly. Yes, it was. They ate together in comfortable silence. Micah appeared halfway through, climbing onto Dante's lap without asking. Dante froze, clearly not sure what to do. Then slowly, carefully, he put his arm around the boy. "Morning," Micah said sleepily. "Good morning." Dante's voice was gentle. "Are you hungry?" "Yeah." Naomi watched them together, this hard, dangerous man holding her little brother like he was made of glass, and felt something shift in her chest. This was what Dante needed. Not just to protect them, but to remember what it felt like to be part of something, to be family. The moment shattered when Matteo burst through the door. "We have a problem." Dante was on his feet instantly, setting Micah down. "What?" "Nick's people grabbed one of our couriers. They're demanding a meeting. You alone, or they kill him." Dante's face went dark. "When?" "Tonight. Warehouse on the south side. It's a trap. Obviously. I'm going anyway." "Like hell you are," Naomi said. Everyone turned to look at her. "It's a trap, you just said so, you can't walk into it." "I don't have a choice. If I don't go, they kill an innocent man. And then they come after someone else. It never ends unless I end it." "Then take backup. Take an army." They specified alone. He cupped her face. "I'll be careful. I promise." "Your promises don't mean anything if you're dead." "I'm not going to die." "You don't know that." Her voice broke. "Dante, please. There has to be another way." "There isn't." He kissed her forehead gently. "Take care of Micah. Matteo will stay here. If anything happens to me—" "Don't! Don't you dare say it." "If anything happens, Matteo knows what to do. You'll be protected. Both of you." He looked at Matteo. "Get me everything we have on that warehouse. I want layout, exits, blind spots. Everything. On it." Dante started to leave, but Naomi grabbed his arm. "Wait. Just wait." She didn't know what she wanted to say. Didn't know how to tell him that the thought of him walking into danger made her want to scream. That somewhere in the last few days, he'd become more than just their protector. He'd become someone she couldn't imagine losing. "Come back," she whispered. "Please, come back to us." His eyes softened. "I will. I promise." He left, and Naomi sank onto the couch, her whole body shaking. Micah climbed next to her, pressing close. "Is Mr. Moretti going to be okay?" he asked quietly. "I hope so, baby." "I really hope so." But as the hours ticked by and evening approached, that hope felt thinner and thinner, and when Matteo's phone rang at 7 o'clock and his face went pale, Naomi knew something had gone terribly wrong. "What is it?" Naomi's voice came out strangled. "What happened?" Matteo's hand tightened on his phone. "They moved the meet-up time. It's happening now. Dante's already there." "What?" "But he said—" "They changed the terms." Matteo was already moving, grabbing his jacket, checking his weapon. "They called him directly an hour ago, told him if he didn't come immediately alone, they'd start cutting pieces off the courier." Naomi's stomach turned. "So he just went? Without backup?" He had no choice. Matteo's jaw was tight. "But I'm not leaving him out there alone. I'm going. Then I'm coming with you." "Absolutely not. He's walking into a trap to protect people. To protect us." Her voice was fierce. "I'm not sitting here doing nothing. Naomi, if something happens to you, Dante will— If something happens to him, none of this matters anyway." She grabbed her jacket. "Please, I can't just wait here." Matteo looked at her for a long moment, then cursed under his breath. "Fine, but you stay in the car. You don't get out. You don't make a sound. Understood? What about Micah? I'll have 2 of my men come up. He won't be alone." Matteo was already on his phone, barking orders. Within minutes, 2 serious-looking men in dark suits arrived at the penthouse door. Naomi knelt in front of Micah, her hands shaking as she smoothed his hair. "Baby, I need you to stay here with these nice men for a little bit, okay? I'll be back soon." "Where are you going?" His eyes were too knowing, too worried. "To help Mr. Moretti." "Is he in trouble?" She couldn't lie to him. "Yes, but we're going to make sure he's okay." Micah threw his arms around her neck. "Be careful, Nay. Please." "I will. I love you so much." "Love you too." She kissed his forehead and forced herself to stand, to walk away, even though every instinct screamed at her to stay with her brother. But Dante had given up everything to protect them. The least she could do was make sure he didn't face this alone. The warehouse was on the south side, in an industrial area that looked abandoned. Matteo parked a block away, the engine idling. "Stay here," he said again. "I mean it, Naomi. Don't get out of this car. Be careful." He nodded once and disappeared into the shadows. Naomi sat in the passenger seat, her heart hammering so hard she thought it might break through her ribs. The street was empty, silent except for distant traffic and the occasional siren. Minutes crawled by like hours. Then she heard it, a gunshot, sharp and unmistakable, echoing through the night. Her hand was on the door handle before she could think. "No," she whispered to herself. "You promised. You stay in the car." Another shot, then shouting, the sound of breaking glass. Naomi's breath came in short gasps. Every instinct screamed at her to run toward the noise, to find Dante, to make sure he was... A figure stumbled out of the warehouse. For a moment she thought it was Dante. Then the streetlight caught his face. Nick. He was clutching his side, blood seeping between his fingers. He looked around wildly, then spotted the car. Their eyes met. Naomi's blood turned to ice. He started toward her, his face twisted in pain and rage. She locked the doors with shaking hands, fumbling for her phone. But before she could call anyone, Nick was at the window, slamming his fist against the glass. "Open the door, Naomi. Get away from me. You don't understand. Moretti's insane. He just killed 3 of my men. He's going to kill me too, please." "Good." The word burst out of her, surprising them both. "You ransacked my home. You stole from a sick child. You threatened us. I was trying to protect you from him." Nick's face was desperate. "He's a monster, Naomi. Once he's done with you, he'll throw you away like garbage. That's what he does. That's who he is." "No." Her voice was steady now, certain. "You're wrong. He's more than that. He's a killer. So are you. The difference is he's honest about it." Nick's expression hardened. He pulled something from his jacket, a gun, small and black. He aimed it at the window. "Get out of the car." Now, the world seemed to slow down. Naomi's hand found the gear shift. She'd watched Matteo drive. It couldn't be that different. "I said get out." She slammed the car into drive and hit the gas. Nick dove sideways, the gun firing wild. The bullet shattered the passenger window, glass spraying everywhere. Naomi screamed but didn't stop, yanking the wheel, the car lurching forward. She'd never driven before, never had money for lessons, never had time to learn. The car swerved dangerously, tires screeching. She overcorrected, nearly hit a streetlight, somehow managed to straighten out. In the rearview mirror, she saw Nick struggling to his feet. Then she saw something else. Dante, emerging from the warehouse, blood on his white shirt, fury on his face. He saw Nick, saw the gun, saw Naomi in the car, and he ran. Naomi didn't think. She threw the car in reverse, barely missing a parked van, and jerked to a stop near the warehouse entrance. Dante yanked open the driver's door. "What the hell are you doing here?" "Saving you." She scrambled over to the passenger seat. "Get in." He didn't argue. He threw himself into the driver's seat just as Nick fired again. The bullet hit the door, inches from Dante's head. Dante slammed the car into gear and they shot forward, tires smoking. "You were supposed to stay at the penthouse," Dante said through gritted teeth, weaving through the narrow streets. "Matteo's still in there. Matteo can handle himself. You shouldn't be here. Micah is safe, with guards." She twisted to look behind them. "Is Nick following us?" "He's too injured, but his backup will be here soon." Dante took a hard turn, the car fishtailing. "We need to get back now." They drove in tense silence, Dante checking the mirrors constantly. Naomi's hands wouldn't stop shaking. She pressed them between her knees, trying to breathe normally. "Are you hurt?" she finally asked. "No. You're covered in blood." "Not mine." He glanced at her. "You could have been killed. So could you. That's different." "No, it's not." She turned to face him. "Stop acting like your life doesn't matter. It matters to me. It matters to Micah." His jaw tightened. "Naomi, I couldn't just sit there, Dante. I couldn't wait and wonder if you were coming back, so I went, and I'd do it again." For a moment she thought he'd yell at her, tell her how reckless she'd been, how stupid. Instead his hand reached across the space between them and found hers. "Thank you," he said quietly, "for coming, even though you shouldn't have." She squeezed his hand. "You're welcome, even though I probably will again." He almost smiled. Almost. They made it back to the penthouse just as Matteo called. He'd gotten out safely, secured the courier, and was heading to a safe location. The immediate threat was over. But Naomi knew this wasn't finished, not by a long shot. Dante's men greeted them in the lobby with relief on their faces. One of them handed Dante a clean shirt. He changed right there in the elevator, not bothering to turn away. Naomi caught a glimpse of scarred skin, old wounds layered over new ones, a body that had survived so much. At the penthouse, she rushed to Micah's room. He was asleep, thank God, curled up with his dinosaur. The guards reported nothing unusual. Everything had been quiet. She sagged with relief. In the living room, Dante stood by the windows again, that same view of the city he always returned to. Naomi approached slowly. "You should get cleaned up," she said. "In a minute." "Dante, he almost shot you." His voice was raw. "When I came out and saw him pointing that gun at your head, He stopped. "I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. All I could see was you, and I thought—" She touched his back. "I'm okay. We're both okay." He turned, and the look on his face stole her breath. "This is why I stay alone, this feeling right here, this terror that I'll lose someone else. I can't do this again, Naomi." "Then don't do it alone." She moved closer. "Let me in. Let us help carry it. You don't understand what you're asking." "I do. I'm asking you to trust that we're stronger together than apart. I'm asking you to believe that love doesn't have to end in loss. It always does. Not always." She took his face in her hands. "Sometimes it ends in something beautiful. Sometimes broken people find each other and build something new, something better. I don't know how. Neither do I. But we'll figure it out." She smiled softly. "One day at a time. Remember?" He pulled her close, his arms wrapping around her like he was drowning and she was air. She held him back, feeling his heart race against hers, feeling the tremor in his hands. "I'm terrified of losing you," he whispered into her hair. "Then don't let me go." "I won't. I can't." They stood like that for a long time, two broken people holding each other together in the darkness. When they finally pulled apart, something had shifted between them, something fragile, but real. "I should check on Micah," Naomi said. "I'll come with you." They walked down the hall together. In Micah's room, Dante stood in the doorway, watching the little boy sleep. His expression was so tender, it made Naomi's chest ache. "He reminds me of my nephew," Dante said softly. "Same stubborn chin." "Tell me about him, your nephew." "His name is Marco, after my son." Dante's voice was barely audible. "He's 8 now, lives in Italy with my sister's husband's family. They won't let me see him. They think I'm too dangerous. Maybe they're wrong. Maybe they're right." He looked at her. "But I want to try anyway, to be better, to be someone who deserves—" He stopped. "Deserves what?" "This. You. A chance at something good." Naomi's throat tightened. "You already deserve it, Dante. You just have to believe it." He reached out and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, his touch gentle. "You make me want to." "Then that's enough, for now." They went to bed in separate rooms, but Naomi lay awake knowing something fundamental had changed. They'd crossed a line tonight, from protector and protected to something more, something neither of them had names for yet, but it was there, real and undeniable. And for the first time in years, she let herself hope that maybe, just maybe, they could build something from all this brokenness. The next few days passed in strange domesticity. Dante worked from home, his office door often open so he could hear them in the living room. Naomi cooked meals in the massive kitchen, learning which foods Dante liked and which ones he just ate to be polite. Micah slowly drew Dante into games and conversations, his natural warmth melting the man's icy exterior, bit by bit. On the 4th day, Dante came home with something wrapped in paper. "What's that?" Naomi asked. "Open it." Inside was a children's book, beautifully illustrated. "The Little Prince." It was my nephew's favorite. Dante looked almost shy. I thought Micah might like it. That night, Dante read to Micah before bed. Naomi watched from the doorway as this dangerous man sat on the edge of her brother's bed, his deep voice gentle as he brought the story to life. Micah's eyes grew heavy, and by the last page, he was asleep. Dante stood carefully, tucking the blanket around the boy. When he turned and saw Naomi watching, something vulnerable crossed his face. "Thank you," she mouthed. He nodded and followed her out, closing the door softly. In the hallway, they stood close together. Naomi could smell his cologne, feel the warmth radiating from him. "He's a good kid," Dante said. "The best. You've done an amazing job with him, raising him alone. I didn't have a choice. You always have a choice. You chose to put him first, to sacrifice everything for him." Dante's hand came up to cup her cheek. "That's love, real love, the kind that doesn't break." "Your love didn't break either," she said softly. "You're still here, still fighting, still protecting people even when it costs you everything. That's love too." "Maybe." His thumb traced her cheekbone. Or maybe I'm just too stubborn to know when to quit. Or maybe you're braver than you think. He leaned closer, and Naomi's breath caught. She could feel the moment stretching between them, fragile and perfect. "Tell me to stop," he whispered. "Tell me this is a bad idea." "I can't." "Why not?" "Because I don't want you to stop." He kissed her then, soft and careful, like she might break. Naomi's hands came up to his chest, feeling his heart race beneath her palms. The kiss deepened, and she felt 5 years of loneliness and fear pour out of him into her. When they finally pulled apart, both breathing hard, Dante rested his forehead against hers. "This changes things," he said. "I know. We can't go back. I don't want to." He pulled her close, holding her like she was precious. "I don't know how to do this. How to be this. Neither do I. But we'll figure it out." She smiled. "Together. Together," he echoed, like he was testing the word, like it was something new and strange and wonderful. They stood in the hallway holding each other while Micah slept peacefully and the city lights twinkled beyond the windows. And for the first time since Elena died, Dante let himself believe that maybe, just maybe, he could have this, could have love without loss, could have light without darkness consuming it, could have Naomi. But peace never lasted long in their world. 2 days later, Matteo came to the penthouse with news. "Nick's in the hospital, critical condition, but he's alive." Dante's expression hardened. And his family is calling for a sit-down. They want to negotiate terms. End this before it gets worse. It's already worse. Which is why they want to talk. Matteo glanced at Naomi. "They've agreed to leave the civilians out of it." "Your call, boss." Dante was quiet for a long moment. Then, "Set it up. Neutral ground. Full security." After Matteo left, Naomi found Dante in his office. "You're going to meet with them." "I have to. This ends one of 2 ways, negotiation or war. I'd prefer negotiation." "What if it's another trap?" "It probably is." He stood and crossed to her. "But I have to try. For you. For Micah. I can't keep you locked in here forever." "What do they want?" "Territory. Money. Blood, probably." His jaw tightened. "I'll give them the first 2. The last one's non-negotiable. Be careful. Always." He kissed her forehead. "This'll be over soon. I promise." But promises, Naomi was learning, were fragile things in Dante's world. The meeting was set for 2 days later. Dante spent those days preparing, strategizing, making sure every contingency was covered. Naomi watched him work and saw the weight of leadership pressing down on him. On the morning of the meeting, she found him standing by the windows again, watching the sunrise. "Couldn't sleep?" she asked. "No." He didn't turn around. "I keep thinking about Eleanor, about the day she died. I was supposed to go with her to that appointment, but I chose a meeting instead, chose business over her. You couldn't have known. I should have. I knew the risks. I knew we had enemies, and I left her vulnerable anyway." He finally looked at her. "I can't make that mistake again." "With you? With Micah?" "You won't." "How can you be sure?" "Because you're not that person anymore. You've learned. You've grown." She took his hand. "And you're not alone this time. You have me. You have Matteo. You have people who care about you. And if I lose you anyway, you won't." She squeezed his hand. "I'm not going anywhere. Neither is Micah. We're here. We're yours. And we're staying." He pulled her into his arms, holding her tight. "I love you," he whispered. "I didn't want to. I fought it. But I love you, Naomi, you and Micah both." Tears filled her eyes. "I love you too. So much." They stood together as the sun rose over Chicago, painting everything gold. And in that moment, Naomi believed they could survive anything. She had to believe it, because the alternative was unbearable. Dante left for the meeting at noon. He kissed Naomi goodbye at the door, long and deep, like he was memorizing her. "I'll be back for dinner," he said. "You better be. I'm making pasta." He almost smiled. "My favorite." "I know." He touched her face one more time, then left. Matteo and 4 other men went with him. The penthouse felt empty without them. Naomi tried to distract herself with normal things, cooking, playing with Micah, cleaning, but her eyes kept drifting to the clock. 1 hour passed, then 2. At 3 o'clock, her phone rang. "Matteo." "Hello?" "Naomi." His voice was tight. "We have a problem." Her blood turned to ice. "What kind of problem?" "The meeting was a setup. They grabbed Dante. We couldn't. There were too many of them. They took him." The phone slipped from her hands. She caught it at the last second, her whole body shaking. "Where?" she managed. "Where did they take him?" We don't know, but they called. They want to make a trade. A trade for what? For you. The world tilted sideways. What? They want you, Naomi. You for Dante. They said you have 1 hour to decide, or they start cutting pieces off him. She sank onto the couch, her mind racing. Why me? What do I have to do with any of this? Because Dante loves you. Because you're his weakness. And they want to prove that loving someone in this world is a death sentence. Tears streamed down her face. Where? Naomi, no. Where, Matteo? Tell me where. He was silent for a long moment. Then he gave her an address on the south side. Don't, he said. Don't do this. We'll find another way. She hung up. Her hands shook as she walked to Micah's room. He was building with blocks, humming to himself. He looked up when she entered and his smile faded. Nay, what's wrong? She knelt in front of him, taking his small hands in hers. Baby, I need you to be very brave for me. Can you do that? What's happening? Mr. Moretti needs my help. I have to go get him. Fear filled his eyes. No, don't go. Stay here. I have to, sweetheart. But I'll come back, I promise. She kissed his forehead. Matteo's coming to get you. He'll take you somewhere safe, and when this is all over, we'll be together again. All 3 of us. What if you don't come back? I will. I promise. She pulled him close, breathing in his little boy smell, memorizing it. I love you so much, Micah. More than anything in this world. Remember that. Always. I love you too. He was crying now, clutching her shirt. Please don't go. It took everything she had to pull away, to stand up and walk to the door, to not look back because if she did, she'd lose her courage. She called a car service, giving them the address Matteo had provided. In the elevator down, she caught sight of herself in the mirrored walls. Pale, scared, determined, she was walking into a trap. She knew that. They'd probably kill her the moment she arrived, but Dante had given up everything to protect her and Micah. He'd opened his heart after years of keeping it locked away. He'd learned to love again, even knowing the risk. The least she could do was give him a chance to survive, even if it cost her everything. The car pulled up to an abandoned factory, all broken windows and rusted metal. Naomi's legs shook as she climbed out. A man was waiting by the door, tall, scarred, dangerous. You came. Where is he? Inside. Come on. She followed him through the dark building, her heart hammering. They entered a large room lit by work lights, and there, tied to a chair in the center, was Dante. Blood dripped from a cut on his temple. His shirt was torn, bruises already forming, but he was alive. His eyes widened when he saw her. No, he said hoarsely. No, Naomi, what did you... I'm sorry. She looked at the men surrounding them. At least 10, all armed. Let him go. That was the deal. Me for him. One of them laughed. You think we're letting either of you go? You're both leveraged now. You said... We lied. He pulled out a gun. But thanks for making this easy. Everything happened at once. The doors exploded inward. Matteo and 20 armed men stormed in, guns blazing. Someone tackled Naomi to the ground. Bullets ricocheted off metal. Men shouted and fell. Through the chaos, she saw Dante break his restraints. Had they been loose the whole time? And launch himself at the nearest man. He moved like violence made flesh, brutal and efficient. Someone grabbed Naomi from behind. She screamed, fighting, but his grip was iron. He dragged her toward a back exit, away from the fighting. Dante, she yelled. He heard her, turned, saw her being taken, and the look on his face was pure murder. He fought through 3 men like they were nothing, moving toward her with single-minded focus. The man holding her put a gun to her head. One more step, Moretti, and she dies. Dante froze. That's better. The man backed toward the door. So now I think we need to renegotiate. A shot rang out. The man holding Naomi staggered, his grip loosening. She twisted free as he fell, revealing Matteo standing behind them with his gun raised. Run! Matteo shouted. She ran straight to Dante. He caught her, pulling her behind him, shielding her with his body. Around them the fight was ending. The Callahan men were surrendering or dead. It was over. You weren't supposed to come, Dante said raggedly, still holding her. You were supposed to stay safe. I couldn't. Not when they had you. She pulled back to look at him. I couldn't lose you. You almost got killed. So did you. So we're even. Despite everything, he laughed. It sounded broken and relieved and full of love. We're both idiots. Probably. She touched his bloody face. But we're alive. And we're together. Yeah. He kissed her, hard and desperate. Yeah, we are. Matteo approached, holstering his weapon. It's done. Nick won't be a problem anymore, neither will his family. What happens now? Naomi asked. Now? Dante took her hand. Now we go home. Epilogue. 6 months later. The cafe was different now. New owners, better security, and Naomi working only 3 days a week instead of 6. She could afford that now, with Dante insisting on paying for Micah's medical expenses and refusing to take no for an answer. She'd learned to let him help, learned that accepting love didn't make her weak. Micah's glucose monitor beeped. She glanced at it automatically. 98. Perfect. He was thriving now, his health stable, his smile constant, and he talked about Dante like other kids talked about their dads. Speaking of which, the door opened and Dante walked in, wearing jeans and a sweater instead of his usual suit. More relaxed, more human. He spotted them immediately and smiled. That smile still made her heart skip. "Hey," he said, sliding into the booth next to Micah. "Hey yourself. How was school, buddy?" "Good, we're learning about planets. Did you know Saturn has rings made of ice?" "I did not know that." Dante listened with genuine interest as Micah explained everything he'd learned. Then he looked at Naomi. "Ready to go?" "Where are we going?" she asked. "It's a surprise." She'd learned to trust his surprises. They got in the car, the three of them together now, always, and drove through Chicago as the sun set. 20 minutes later, they pulled up to a house. Not huge, not fancy, but beautiful. 2 stories, a yard, trees in front. "What's this?" Naomi asked. "Ours, if you want it." Dante handed her a key. "I bought it last month. I wanted to give you both something stable, something normal, somewhere that's yours." Tears filled her eyes. "Dante, I know we haven't talked about the future, about what this is, but I want you to know, I'm all in. With you, with Micah. This is what I want, if you'll have me." She threw her arms around him, crying and laughing at the same time. "Yes, yes, of course, yes." Micah whooped and ran toward the house, eager to explore. Naomi and Dante followed more slowly, hand in hand. Inside, the house was perfect. Not too big, not too small. Room for all of them and the life they were building. In the kitchen, Naomi found a photograph on the counter. A little girl with dark curls and serious eyes. "Is this Lucia, my niece?" Dante's voice was soft. "I talked to my sister's family. They're letting me see her again. Slowly, she's starting to talk, not much, but some." "That's wonderful." "Yeah, it is." He pulled Naomi close. "I'm getting my family back, in ways I never thought possible. And it's because of you. You taught me that it's okay to love again, to hope again. You taught me the same thing." They stood in the empty kitchen of their new house, holding each other while Micah's excited footsteps echoed from upstairs. Outside, the sun set over their quiet neighborhood. It wasn't perfect. Dante still had his business, though he was working toward making it more legitimate. They still had scars, both of them, from everything they'd survived. There would be hard days ahead, but they'd face them together. That was the promise they'd made to each other. Not that life would be easy or safe or simple, just that they'd never face it alone. "I love you," Naomi said. "I love you too." Dante kissed her forehead. "Both of you, my family." "Our family," she corrected. "Our family," he agreed. And for the first time in 5 years, when Dante looked at the future, he didn't see shadows and loss. He saw light, he saw hope, he saw home. That night, after Micah was asleep in his new room and the house was quiet, Naomi found Dante on the back porch, looking at the stars. She wrapped her arms around him from behind, resting her cheek against his back. "You okay?" she asked. "Better than okay." He turned to pull her into his arms. "I keep thinking about the day I first saw you, really saw you, when you smiled at Nick, and something in me just broke open. Jealousy? Awareness." He touched her face. "I'd been going to that cafe for months, never noticed you. But that day suddenly you were all I could see, and I couldn't understand why this stranger mattered so much. Why the thought of someone else making you smile made me want to burn the world down. And now I understand. You were what I'd been looking for without knowing it. You and Micah both. My second chance. My redemption." He kissed her softly. "We're the lucky ones," Naomi said. "You gave us everything. You gave me more. You gave me a reason to be better. To be the man Elena always believed I could be." His voice caught. "I think she'd like you. I think she'd be happy I found you." "I hope so. I know so." He pulled her closer. "Thank you, Naomi, for not running, for staying, for loving me even when I didn't deserve it. You always deserved it. You just couldn't see it yet." They stood together under the stars, 2 broken people who'd found healing in each other, who'd learned that love didn't have to end in loss, that sometimes the hardest hearts could still learn to open, that sometimes protection became partnership, obsession became devotion, and fear became the foundation for something beautiful. In the house behind them, Micah dreamed of dragons and spaceships. In the city beyond, Dante's world continued, but different now, softer around the edges. And in the quiet of their new home, Naomi and Dante held each other and knew they'd found what they'd both been searching for. Not perfection, not safety, but love. Real, flawed, redemptive love. And that was enough. More than enough. It was everything. The end.